On this episode, we'll discuss rethinking missional engagement through entrepreneurship. Well, hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast, the show that is dedicated to inspiring leaders and empowering healthy churches. I'm Kendall Connor, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jessica Moore. Hey, how are you there, Jess?
Hey, Kendall. I'm doing good today. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I don't know if you can hear it, but it is like crazy rain that is happening all around our building right now. I feel like it's going to come straight through the roof at times. You can't hear it on here?
No, not at all. I feel like these mics do such a good job of canceling things out. Nope, can't hear it.
It's a good thing we invested in the higher quality mics, I think, at this point because of that, right? Well, you know, it's like those April showers, I guess. Well, good. It's not going to stop us from moving forward because we have an incredible guest today. Let me tell you all about him. Greg Atkinson is a best-selling author. He's an international keynote speaker and an entrepreneur with over 30 years of experience in organizational leadership. He's written things for over 1 million readers. He has spoken to millions of people in over 100 countries. Super impressive. He's worked with nonprofits, businesses, and churches of all stages and sizes, including teaching and training some of the largest and fastest growing churches in the U.S. Among all of those impressive things, he is also the founder of Entre Church, the entrepreneurial church, and that's where lately his efforts have been focused as he's helping pastors and ministries rethink missional engagement by launching and supporting local businesses that serve both the community and the kingdom. And so today, that's what we'll be exploring, practical ways that churches can move from just surviving really to thriving, whether that's through creative facility use, whether it's launching mission-driven businesses, or just encouraging all those bi-vocational pastors out there like myself to pursue to view their dual calling as more of a gift and not so much as a setback. So for everyone who's listening today, if you're a church leader that's feeling stuck or tired of just doing the same thing or just curious about new ways to reach your community and fund your ministry, this episode is going to be for you. Jess, this sounds like a pretty good topic, right?
Yeah, this is going to be so interesting. There's definitely overlap in churches and businesses and pastors that do both. So this is going to be a good one.
It's going to be a good one. Before we jump in today, I want to encourage everyone who's listening to hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, wherever you're enjoying our show. We want to make sure that you stay in the loop as we continue to release these conversations and give out those valuable resources. And that's the best way to make sure that you don't miss a thing. So without further ado, let's welcome our guest, Greg Atkinson. Hey, how are you there, Greg?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you guys for having me.
Glad you're here.
We're so honored to have you. Yeah. Now, we just read the public bio, but what's something that doesn't make that public bio that all your family and friends would know about you?
I think, my favorite thing is being a dad and the relationship that I have with my 3 adult kids, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, that's amazing. As a parent myself, and Jess, I know you're a parent. I know that speaks to our hearts for sure. I know how big of a deal that is for us. Tell us a little bit about your story. Now, your bio, you have a lot of different things, and I feel like I couldn't even squeeze in all of the different things that you've been involved with. Would you tell us a little bit about your story and kind of how you got passionate about helping churches?
Yeah, I've been in ministry 31 years, and over that 3 decades had got laid off 3 times due to finances. And so it kind of made an impact on me, and obviously was devastating to go through at the time. And so I started thinking about creative financing, different ways to fund churches, to fund mission beyond the offering plate. And so it led to this. I started working on the Entre Church idea about 8 years ago.
That's incredible. And what would you say, to everyone who kind of maybe like doesn't have a clear idea of what that looks like, what Entre Church is? Can you explain it a little bit to us?
Yeah, we're an organization that comes alongside churches to help them rethink through finances.
That's awesome. And I'll be honest with you. I was taking a look at some of your materials and things and resources that you have out there. And when I was thinking about it, the whole concept of how, a church and a business I was thinking it was completely foreign to me. But the more I thought about it, it really is something that I've seen quite often in ministries. At first I was thinking, I don't really know how a nonprofit and business can work together, but from what I understand and what I've learned is it's very common. And what the way that's set up is those profits, they go back to fund the mission and cause that's making it happen. Is that a good explanation of how that works?
Yeah, we even work with churches that start an additional nonprofit. It doesn't have to necessarily be an LLC or quote unquote business. It could be you have your 501c3 with your church, and then you start a nonprofit that has a coffee shop or a cafe, or, there's a lot of different ways to supplement your income that, like you said, has been going on for years.
Yeah, I feel like it was like I said, at first glance, I thought, oh, I've never seen that. But then the more I thought about it, I've seen it for decades. Daycares, thrift shops, or thrift stores, coffee shops, food trucks, co-working spaces. Just to name those couple, I've seen those even in my own community. There are a lot of churches around here that operate those different kind of things, and I will see their food truck drive by, or there's a coffee truck near us, and there's a lot of co-working spaces that are actually ran by churches around here. Are you seeing that pretty often?
Yeah, there's a lot of churches that I follow here in the Charlotte area and that I have met with, interviewed with, worked with. There's I think in every community, there's entrepreneurial ventures going on in a faith and church context.
Okay, so talking about missional engagement, I know this is a part of what Entre Church does. I think people generally think about outreach or missions or service, but not as much entrepreneurship, but that's very much what you all do. And so can you dive into a little bit about how entrepreneurship and missional engagement work together?
Yeah, absolutely. I see it as the same thing. When I sat down and first started working on the Entre Church business plan in a Google Doc, everything was outreach. Everything pointed to outreach. It all amounted to outreach. That was the heart of the organization. It's the heart of what we do and why we do it. And so when you think of getting involved in your community and missional businesses, they're very outreach oriented. We're trying to find creative ways to get people in the community in the doors of the church. It may be, like Kendall said, a thrift shop. Mm-hmm. It may be a coffee shop. It may be a daycare, a preschool, maybe co-working space that's opened up, or the church has found creative ways to rent their facility. But people in the community may be walking through the doors of the church for the very first time. And so it's very, very outreach oriented. So a lot of times they're synonymous. They go together. I remember one time holding a business event at our church, and a guy came in for the first time. It was like a Chamber of Commerce event. And he looked at the stage in the auditorium and said, "You guys have drums?" I said, "Yeah, that's it's like a rock band on Sunday. I don't know what you were expecting, but it's a rock band." And he said, "Wow, I'm going to have to come check it out." So it's an outreach.
That's awesome.
I love that. It reminds me, just recently we went and to support some of our friends, their kids. They were having an event for their school, a school play, something like that, music program, something like that. And it was held at a local church that was next or very close to the school that they go to. And I remember walking into that church, had never been there before, didn't know until that moment that church existed. Walking in, looking and saying, "Man, this is an incredible church." I'm not sure. They may or may not have been, just allowing the school to use it for that event, or maybe it was some kind of facility use type of situation there. But I also saw in there in that moment, they had a coffee shop that was open 7 days a week, and people from the community go in there, and that's a place that they're introduced to the church. So I feel like I'm seeing this everywhere.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, so we kind of mentioned several of these concepts, these ideas, daycares, thrift stores. What makes these effective both in their impact in the community and sustainability, maybe for the ministry?
Yeah, a big part of what we do with Entre Church, with our cohorts, our coaching, our articles, our conferences and events, and the consulting arm that we just launched is connecting dots of, hey, don't look at your daycare, your preschool, your thrift shop, coffee shop, co-working space, whatever it may be. Don't look at that as a one-off or a silo, something separate. See it as a strategic, connected part of your budget and your ministry and ways to fund the mission that you feel called to do.
I love that. And, I feel like just kind of preparing for this podcast, I connected with a local ministry that's close to us, that they operate a thrift store, but it's fueled by their recovery program. So they have a recovery program that happens. And so they're actually able to employ some of the people who are going through their program that actually are able to make this business. And so there's a lot of, you can see how they work together. It's something that, of course, it provides value to the community, but it also provides ways that people can get involved. And it just kind of warms my heart hearing that, they're able to make that happen for that program. Greg, a lot of pastors or churches, they may feel stuck or financially stretched in this season. How would you say that entrepreneurial thinking could help them to move away out of this season of struggling to a place where they can thrive in their mission and in their budget even?
I think it's a muscle you have. You just have to work out. I like to say, unleash your God-given entrepreneurial spirit. When we think of church planners, they're very entrepreneurial. They're pioneers. Missionaries are the same way. It's in our DNA. We have been wired like that. We have been called to the mission field like that. And so it's a matter of stretching that muscle, working out, flexing that muscle in new ways. As church leaders, as pastors, as ministers, we are very creative. We are very innovative, or at least we should be. When I think of your resources and things that you offer, they're very innovative in a lot of ways, and in ways that we can accomplish the mission more efficiently. And so it's just a matter of flexing that muscle.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I know that we've talked about a couple different ideas for mission-focused businesses, but do you have any other ideas that you could share with us? Some practical ideas that our listeners may be able to walk away with today?
I would say the use that I'm working on in creative, innovative ways is using ChatGPT for all that it is. We know that there's free options, there's $20 a month options, but it can really help you formulate your thoughts. You come up with a little idea and it stretches it to a whole new level. And so I would just sit around and ask ChatGPT some questions and see if it helps you think through how you're doing stuff.
Let's talk really quickly about facilities. I know that so many churches have buildings that sit empty for most of the time of the week, 6 days a week. Do you have any practical ideas for how, maybe these churches can use that as a resource as they're trying to build their budget and to maybe even become mortgage neutral? I heard that's a buzzword that's coming up in this field. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, so I was talking with Brady Scherer last week, and he was saying that his church in Canada is mortgage neutral because they rent out their facility. I have been thinking about this for well over a decade. I remember being at the Catalyst Conference in Atlanta. I heard Andy Stanley speak, and he said the largest owner of real estate in America is the church. And I started thinking, how can we make the most of a building that's only used one day a week? Yes, the staff may be there in their office, but you have a lot of space. Think of the mainline denomination churches, your First Baptist, First Methodist, First Presbyterian, all these churches that have giant facilities and Sunday school classrooms and conference rooms and auditoriums. Those could be used for so much. We talked about churches that rent out schools that rent out the auditorium for graduations. There are businesses that would love to use your church's conference room. There are business leaders, entrepreneurs in your community, like, say, a therapist that would love to use a Sunday school room as an office. They may be there 4 days a week renting from the church a Sunday school room that is able to be set up as a therapist's office. And so there's a lot of ways. You mentioned earlier co-working space. There's a lot of ways that we can rent out our facility to supplement our income.
So smart.
That's all great points. Yeah, so smart. Jess, I know that you're our expert on the podcast here for all of the different tools that churches can use. Maybe you'd like to take our next question that's focused on the different tools and systems.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously it takes some efficiencies to make sure that you can operate either bivocationally with two separate things or even within your ministry. So what type of tools do you think churches would need to invest in, or would they need to invest? What are your thoughts on streamlining that and being efficient in that way?
I'm a big believer in tools. I'm a big fan of tools. I'm a big fan of the word efficiency. I talk about that in my consulting. I think the American church, the global church, got a huge wake-up call in 2020 with COVID of we need to have online giving set up. We need to find a way to be able to receive giving if the person's not there, if there's a snow day, if there's a pandemic. We have got to find a way to accept donations, giving, tithes and offerings, besides putting actual physical money in a plate. And so when I think of facility use and scheduling, you may need to have a scheduling software that allows people to rent rooms when you start getting into this. I would just say to look at and utilize as many tools that get the job done as possible, and to take this kind of stuff seriously. When we talk about starting a new nonprofit, starting an LLC, when we talk about finding ways to supplement your income beyond tithes and offerings, you want to do that with the proper accounting software. You want to do that with an accountant. You want to do that with an attorney. You need to sit down with an attorney and talk through your structure, your corporate structure, and just make sure everything's on the up and up and legal.
That all makes so much sense. And man, that's great advice on that. I want to speak really quickly to the I cannot get this word out today, bivocational pastors that are out there today, like myself. Listen, I know that bivocational pastoring, it used to be seen as a burden. But you think maybe that it could be a blessing. How would you encourage pastors that are working multiple jobs, or they're launching businesses while they're leading their churches? What would you say to them today?
I think you're the backbone of the church, and I would just encourage you you're not alone. There are over 1 million bivocational pastors in North America. You're not alone. I think you are on the cutting edge, front lines of ministry. Jesus was a carpenter. Paul was a tent maker. There is nothing wrong with having a bivocational approach or a co-vocational approach to ministry. I think it's awesome. It is showing that you are so committed to serving the local church in a ministry pastoral capacity that you will work another job to allow you to do it. I think it's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible and really encouraging. I know for everyone who's listening today that's in that situation, what a great reminder that what you're doing is incredible. We talk a lot about this. Go ahead, Jess.
Yeah, I mean, we ask all of our guests this question, and it's amazing to see what type of responses we've gotten. I think they're all accurate, they're all true, and they're all valuable. In your opinion, what's one essential component of a healthy church?
I think a hunger for God and a hunger to reach people. When I do speaking, I'll talk about churches should plan and prepare for guests. We want to reach people in our community. And when it comes to worship, corporate worship, when it comes to gathering in the auditorium and worshiping God, we should have a hunger to connect with the living God.
Yeah, that's a really good reminder. Greg, let me ask you this. We've got a final five that we're going to do, a rapid fire round. But before we jump into that, is there anything that we've missed that we haven't been able to talk through today that you'd like to get out the word about when it comes to entrepreneurship in the church?
I would just encourage you to pray about this, to make sure God's leading you to this. If there's some low-hanging fruit in your situation where it would be easy to start blank, pray about it and then just go for it. The thing about entrepreneurship is it takes a great deal of courage, a great deal of bravery. You've got to just, there's no guarantee that it's going to work out. That's the beauty of entrepreneurship. You've just got to go for it and trust God and be smart about it, but trust God and let him lead you.
Well, as we go into our final five round, Jess, would you want to take us through the first one?
Yeah, sure. Okay. What is one book on this subject, Greg, or similar, that you would recommend to church leaders?
My answer in the future is the Entre Church book that I'm writing right now, The Rise of the Entrepreneurial Church. It is coming to a theater near you. No, it's
Great
coming
answer.
Down the road. Right now, what you can read is The Coming Revolution of Church Economics by Mark DeMaz. We have a cohort with Mark DeMaz coming up at the end of the month, end of April, after Easter. So he's going to be teaching what's in this book, and it's a great resource. It shares the story of what God is up to at his church, Mosaic Church in Little Rock, Arkansas. So The Coming Revolution of Church Economics. That's a great book.
What is the last thing that you listened to on Spotify or Apple Music?
I was just listening to Influence Music, and I listen to Bethel and Elevation a lot. They're always in the rotation, not just on Apple Music, but on YouTube TV. I have a morning routine where I wake up and I drink coffee and I watch worship on YouTube TV.
What is your favorite piece of technology or software?
I alluded to this earlier. Right now, I'm wearing out ChatGPT. I think it's such a great resource, and I spend a lot of time, hours a day, in ChatGPT.
Yeah, it is a great tool and resource. I get on there every day to count my macros. So I'm on there every time I eat a snack.
Yeah, these days, I don't know how I could live without it, so I definitely understand. Greg, what is a quote or some advice that has stuck with you over the years?
Some advice, which is also a quote, was 30 years ago when I started in ministry. My uncle, who was a minister of music, worship pastor back in the day, starting back in the 70s, he came to visit my church. And I was running around trying to make sure everything was perfect. You know, I was 18 years old and stressing out. And we went to lunch after church, and he said, "Greg, walk slowly through the pews." And that just stuck with me. Walk slowly through the pews. Take time to look people in the eye, to shake hands, to have conversations. And it changed the course of the next 30 years of my ministry.
That's
I love
awesome.
That. Wow.
I love that too. That's so great. Okay. And lastly, what is one thing you would like to communicate to our audience of church leaders?
Us at Entre Church, I started it, but I'm not the only one. We have a great team. We believe the local church is the hope of the world. We also believe hope needs funding. And so however you can accomplish the mission, if it is a combination of tithes and offerings and entrepreneurial ventures, do whatever you can to get the job done. We have a great calling.
That's awesome. Greg, this has been a great conversation. Where can people find out more? Where can they follow you?
Check me out personally at gregatkinson.com and check Entre Church out at entrechurch.com. I'm at Greg Atkinson on social, and we are at Entre Church on social.
That's awesome.
Easy enough.
Yeah, I feel like this has been just like a great conversation, refreshing to hear the ideas. I love the practical takeaways that we can get from this. But Greg, I love how you've also just challenged us to kind of think out of the box, while still at the same time not losing sight of that mission. And, to everyone who's listening today, whether you're exploring these ideas, you're just trying to make the most of the church building that you have, or maybe you're just dreaming about a new business that could bless your community, or maybe you just needed that encouragement a little bit as that bi-vocational leader, I would say this to you today as we close out. God can use every part of your life to build the kingdom. And so whatever ideas or whatever projects you're kind of thinking about as your next step, God can use every single area of your life to build the kingdom. And so just keep at it and don't be afraid to try something new. I love that. And I'm taking away that coming out of this conversation. If this has been encouraging to you, if this is an episode that could benefit someone else, I would ask that you consider sharing it with a friend or even leaving a review. Let us know that this is something that was valuable to you. That helps us to keep equipping leaders and to get this in the ears of people all over the world to help build these healthy churches. And so definitely, again, hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening to this today. But until next time, we'd encourage you to keep leading well, and we will see you right back here next time on Church Leadership Lab.
This episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast is brought to you by Ministry Brands, the largest provider of church technology software. Over 90,000 churches rely on Ministry Brands for their single platform solution that brings together all the digital tools a church needs. From online giving to websites to church management software and more, Ministry Brands is leading the way in simple-to-use, innovative solutions, all with the goal of empowering healthy churches. To learn more, visit ministrybrands.com.